This project is a long time coming. I have been wanting to do this project since I came into this position in August of 2021. And so it's really awesome that Marine Corps Air Station Yuma stepped up to do it. So what you're seeing is regenerative grazing, and you've got cattle mixed in with actually rescued donkeys. And so you kind of got a mixed herd. And what the hope is here for me as the climate change advisor is that I hope that we improve the soils. You got a lot of sand. We're standing on a lot of sand, and we hope that we can get less bare ground, more plants. Why do I care about that from a climate change perspective? Because we know in a desert, water is kind of boom and bust. There's not a lot, and then it comes all at once. And you really want your soils to hold that water in so that you can make it through the dry times. But when you've got a lot of bare ground, what happens is it runs off, and people in the desert know this very, very well. And so what I'm hoping to do, what we're hoping to do, is to create those plants that are gonna hold that water, the soil that's gonna soak it up like a sponge, rather than having it run off where no one can use it, and where it causes a lot of damage on a lot of our desert bases, erosion, and even here at Marine Corps Air Station Yuma. So we do have some grazing at a base in Fallbrook, California. But you know what we're doing is I'm really focusing on our desert bases. And I'm retired Navy. I spent 21 years in the Navy, and I had no idea that actually most of the acreage from our Navy and Marine Corps bases is out here in the desert. These are our largest bases, because at the end of the day, climate change and all the impacts we feel from climate change are about water. It's the water cycle being out of whack, whether that's drought or fire or increasing temperatures or hurricanes in California where you don't typically see them, atmospheric rivers, all these things, melting glaciers, they're all a function of the water cycle. So I'm really laser focused on how we slow water, how we get water in the ground, how we keep our landscapes from drying out. So we're taking this approach here. We're also doing some other projects, and we're looking to do more and more. I had a big idea to do it, but there was people all up and down the Marine Corps chain. General Maxwell, who leads our installations command, has been very supportive. We've got our natural resources lead at headquarters, Ms. Jackie Rice, who has been just super like a force of nature getting this done, and of course the Yuma team. And then here on the ground we have some ranchers who are just world renowned for what they do. This is not just any rancher that we picked to come here. When I wanted to do something in the West, I reached out to one of the biggest names in regenerative agriculture, and I said, I want to try to green a desert. Who do you got? And he said, you need to talk to Alejandro Carrillo. And so we're incredibly fortunate that Alejandro was willing to come here. He works all over the world, and we're just super excited to have a really great team here. So in climate change, we talk a lot about reducing emissions, right? Solar and electric vehicles, and that's a big focus, and certainly super important. Have to do all that. And we know that all the climate models say we cannot get where we need to go by just lowering our emissions. We actually have to suck carbon out of the air, which is what plants do, right? We learned that in middle school science class. It's photosynthesis. And so, as a steward of nearly 5 million acres of land, which is what the Department of the Navy manages, I was like, well, here's what we can contribute. We can try to goose up that carbon sequestration as much as we possibly can, because, oh, by the way, it also makes you more resilient when you do that. You're getting the water, you're getting the biodiversity that our natural resources people want, and you're getting heat to come down, dust. It just has so many nature is just miraculous, right? So there's just a no lose in doing this. Like Marine Corps Air Station Yuma and lots of other bases around. I mean, we have tests and training events sometimes here or other places that get delayed for dust storms. you know, or just for the Marines that have to train out here. I think they would have really appreciated if it was just a little bit, you know, some more vegetation made it a little bit cooler. And, you know, that runoff, that erosion is real. When you get even just like a normal rainstorm here in the desert, and folks who are listening to this and live in this environment know this much better than I, it can be really destructive. So anything we do to try to slow that water down when it comes is going to have so many benefits. In particular, this project, you know, I really wanted to show communities, the world. I mean, if you look at climate change and the impacts it's having, of course you've got a lot of coastal impacts, but what I really worry about is the loss of water security, the loss of food. Like when people can't grow crops, when they don't have enough water, they have to leave their land. You've got conflict. So you can take it at like a local training level, like we talked about, and just dust and erosion and all that sort of stuff being good for the base, or, you know, being solving those problems for the base. You can look at the Yuma or desert communities that are facing this, and if we can showcase how this can be done, you know, the goal is not to keep this on 277 acres, right? We need to find approaches that really scale. And then it's an example for the world, because all the places that, you know, Marines are on the receiving end of when things go wrong, like solutions like this is where the rubber meets the road. You know, I talk to Marines, I talk to Special Forces, and they're like, a lot of the times it's not ideology that's driving people. Like, they need to feed their families. And so much conflict is driven by that food and water and just resources. And so I think about all those layers when I put forth a project like this. I was thinking about all those things. What we were saying, so we actually just got some money from DOD to be the lead service for a national innovation landscape network, like the chapter in the Southwest. We put our hands up because said, we're doing some cool stuff. How about you fund us? So they've given us some money, and they really want us to scale innovation on desert landscapes, not just for the Navy and Marine Corps, but for all the services. So that's what I'm charged, and that's what I'm really excited to do. And we've reached out to private industry, and we've actually just sent out a request for proposals, and they came in just this week. So now my goal is to just bring in a group of all different experts and be like, what can we do? Let's find solutions. Too often when we talk about climate change, it's just about, oh, like things are terrible and like it's really bad. And yes, but there are solutions, and they're not rocket science. Like, they're really not, you know, but a lot of simple solutions can go a long way. I think another thing that I just love about this is so many times climate change is like politicized, and it's sort of a red and blue, and I just love that farmers and ranchers can be at the center of this solution, and we can all like agree on that, right? It's just good, you know. This is just like nature, and all humans can resonate with that, regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on. I feel like it's just win-wins. So that's why I love this kind of project.
We are grazing cattle and some mules and a burro out here in an effort actually to improve the soil quality. So Marine Corps Station Yuma owns a lot of range space and actually has several environmental programs, and this is one of the ones we've got going on right now. It's actually tied to some of our water conservation programs that we have going on, as well as just generally trying to kind of care for the environment here and participate in an experiment to see how by selectively grazing animals we can actually improve the soil quality and encourage plant growth. So I found myself talking about this a lot. So Marine Corps Station Yuma, like I said, has a ton of range space. In fact, the range space associated with Marine Corps Air Station Yuma is about the size of Connecticut, just to kind of put it in perspective for you. We're able to train here in ways that we really can't train anywhere else in the country, or arguably anywhere else in the world. To do that and to be able to continue doing that, we need to not only not harm the environments that we train in, but really care for them, curate them, and make sure that the natural beauty that exists here, that we operate in, and all of the species that exist here as well are cared for, and that we're really looking 50 and 100 years down the road in terms of the impact that we're going to have on the land that we're responsible for. We do actually have endangered species programs in a lot of different places. There's some fairly well-known ones, desert tortoises up at 29 Palms, historically woodpeckers in North Carolina at Camp Lejeune and New River. I know we manage all of those programs very carefully. The Department of the Navy at large is very engaged in conservation, both at sea and in the ranges on the ground. For example, up in Fallon, Nevada, where the Navy has some very large range spaces as well. Here locally, Marine Corps Air Station Yuma has a large biology department, wildlife biology department. We have on staff several biologists. Randy English is the senior biologist on our staff who really manages kind of all of our programs, or he manages the staff who work for all of the different programs that we have. So this program here specifically, we're doing it in conjunction with some other folks, but really it's run by Marine Corps Air Station Yuma, just like several of the other programs that we have going on. Preserving the natural environment in its current state is probably climate resiliency, but we do actually have some really interesting water conservation programs going on where we're helping to kind of build or encourage the natural collection of water and runoff in some of the ranges to slow the runoff for the sort of the same reasons that we've got this program going on here, to improve soil quality, encourage growth of natural plant life, and also just control erosion in some of the areas that come off of the ranges as well. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's very important for the public, both the local population here in Yuma, who we have a really close working relationship with, as well as I think on a national level. I mean, I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what the military does, about the impact that we have on the environment, and I think people are commonly very surprised to find out that, for example, Marine Corps Air Station Yuma, which is the busiest air station in the Marine Corps, you know, conducting all kinds of training, getting people ready for war, that we also manage climate resiliency programs, right? And that we view it as really very important part of our overall mission set. And let's be honest, I mean, climate resiliency is a national security threat. We have to address that as well as all of the other threats that face the country. If we can demonstrate success with programs like this, particularly where we've got the Department of the Navy involved here today, right? I mean, that kind of opens up the aperture for the entire Navy to look at employing similar projects, and we're absolutely on board with sharing information, sharing data, and helping out any other bases, any other military, really any other organizations at all that want information about how they could replicate something like this anywhere in the country. And you know, in fairness, some of the biologists that we have managing this program are doing these things not only all over the country, but all over the world. I was talking to one of the ranchers who is actually engaged in South America. He's engaged in Mexico. They're looking at hiring him to come over to Mongolia to do some similar projects. So, I mean, it's really, you know, we're a very small part of a global effort. You know, part of it is just building understanding, and frankly, that's incumbent on us to do a good job of communicating to the community what it is that we've got going on out here. And you can see there's cars driving by all over the place. People see us out here with the cows. I mean, it's our job to make sure that people understand why we're doing it, what we're doing, that we advertise our successes, frankly, right? We do a really good job of putting cool pictures out there, Marines fast roping out of helicopters and, you know, storming the beach and doing all kinds of stuff like that. We probably historically haven't done a very good job of advertising some of the other things like this that we do. So I think that falls on us. I mean, if people want to get involved, certainly there are volunteer opportunities available. Also, you know, we run tours out into the range spaces to show people some of the projects that we've got going on, to kind of help them understand what's available. We also open up the majority of the range space that we have to recreation. There are some areas that are closed off for safety reasons, but for the most part, you can get a permit online, you can get out into the desert and check it out, and we actively work to facilitate that and to help people do that safely so that they can kind of understand what's out here, see why it's a national treasure from an environmental perspective, really. I think this is really cool. I mean, it's really kind of outside the box thinking, and I'll just tell you, I mean, having grown up with a lot of livestock and a lot of grazing, as soon as somebody says grazing in nature to me, I kind of immediately go to overgrazing problems. I mean, it's kind of what I grew up with, was sheep overgrazing in mountains in Utah, free-range cattle and conflicts with other species that are out there and stuff like that. Yeah, and I think if you talk to the biologists here, they'll tell you it's really not the animal that you're grazing, it's how they're doing it. It's kind of, you know, using these things responsibly, employing them to to get the feces, the urine, the fluids out there that are actually fertilizing the soil without letting them overgraze, without letting them trample it down. And they'll point out to you that natural grasses, that plains grasses evolved with animals. And that if you don't provide that a lot of places are actually kind of experiencing desertification, I think is the word I'm looking for. It's kind of a mouthful, right? Because they don't have grazing animals fertilizing generation after generation of plant growth. So I think it's a really interesting, exciting concept. I think it's fun that we're able to do it here. And honestly, it's great to be out here on a beautiful day in Yuma, Arizona.
All right, so let's start off here. Well, will you spell your first name and your last name for me?
My first name is Alejandro. My last name is Carrillo.
And then Alejandro, how do I spell that?
Alejandro, A-L-E-J-A-N-D-R-O, and Carrillo is C-A-R-R-I-L-L-O.
So what is your official title and what company are you with?
Yeah, I'm a manager. The company is Grasslands Regeneration Project.
And you guys are out contracted with the Department of Navy for this project. Tell me about what it is and what you're doing out here and how long you've been here.
Yeah, we've been here for almost a couple of months. That is the idea, to come here and graze this land in order to bring the biology. So we use livestock to bring the biology because actually there's very little rain. So we bring not only the biology but also the moisture to the cows. Well, here is the livestock. I think probably we should talk about livestock because we have donkeys, mules, and cattle here. So what cattle is doing here is actually fertilizing the soil, putting the manure, the urine, the saliva, the hoof action in such a way that we're changing the conditions of the soil. So instead of having bare ground, we're gonna have more cover in the soil. Like first, you're gonna see a lot of weeds coming up. Then you're gonna see more annuals, like annual grasses, and then perennials. So we really want to establish a perennial base in such a way that we can cool this place. Right now they're on 300 acres, and then every paddock is 4 acre, and then we subdivided those 4 acre into half an acre. So in ranching terms, we define the animal impact as the pounds per acre. Right now, because we're moving 8 times, and let's say we have here about 100,000 pounds. So we are impacting, no 50,000 pounds. So we are actually on half an acre. That's an animal impact of 100,000 pounds. So that's what is really making a difference here. We keep him just for 1 hour and 8 moves per day. But when we leave the place, then we open up all the 8 paddocks. So they actually go and do another lightly grazing, trying to finish the work, We don't want to keep the animals too long because we don't want the animals to get hungry. That's why we call it also the art of grazing. So you look at your animals, are they happy, are they full? You can see, for example, the animals here are very full, very shiny. So even the state of the animals, like how calm they are, obviously they get excited when they're going to a new paddock, but the livestock is the one that actually giving us the feedback that we need to actually, do we need to move faster? Do we need to move early? Do we need to open up the paddock? What we're trying to do is actually to mimic nature, because we consider that movement is equals to health, and not only the animal, but also the land, So imagine that you're getting like a new plate, fresh salad, like in this case, like every hour. We are actually cattle ranchers. And then we learn this holistic regenerative grazing, and now we're trying to get that benefit into the military installations, so we can actually make a more resilient environment. Yeah, it feels great. Really, we're very excited about this project. One of the main problems here is water scarcity. I mean, like lack of water, because we are in a place that really doesn't rain much, and we're relying on for example, the Colorado River. So what we do is actually improving what we call the effective rainfall. That effective rainfall is, don't tell me how much rain you get, but tell me how much rain you keep. And I mean, I can give you an example. For example, Colorado, or even or home state like Chihuahua, they did a study and we're only infiltrating 40%. So think about that. How much of that rain is actually running off or evaporating? So by bringing the biology of the cow, we actually fit in also the other herd, which is the macro herd. The macro herd is the microbiology. So by bringing all that fertility to the cow, we're feeding the microbiology, which eventually is going to start creating aggregation in the soil. Because remember, the major limitation on grass productivity, on plant productivity, is not water, it's actually air in the soil. If we have compacted soils, then we will not be able to infiltrate. And you may say, well, yeah, Alejandro, but we're in the sandy soils. Well, the sandy soils also get compacted by the lack of microbiology. First of all, to infiltrate the rain, and then because there's a symbiosis between the plants and the microbiology, when it gets the water, then it retains the water because it needs the plant. It needs the photosynthesis process going on, so the plant can actually feed that microbiology. So it says, okay, hold on, I'm gonna keep the water for you when it's a dry times, so you can keep being, staying green, so you can keep feeding me. As you say, it's a pilot right now, and we know it works, but we need to build confidence. And as we see, that's the beautiful thing about livestock, because we can bring even more livestock, so we can cover more areas, and it will get a great benefit for the mission of the Marines, of the Navy. Because first of all, let's say if you have bird ground, they're going to have actually problems on the planes flying. I don't know, for example, the dust devils. If you have bird ground, you're gonna have a lot of dust devils that will, I remember one issue that they have is the turkey vultures get into the dust devil and then hit the planes. So if we have the soil cover, you will reduce the dust devils for 90%. Obviously, less dust storms, less damage of the runoff for roads and things like that. Yeah, we, my friends and myself, we have a ranch in northern Mexico, close to the border. But actually, I came from El Paso, Texas, another desert, right? The Chihuahuan Desert, yes. Yeah. So we're really very familiar with dealing with cattle in the desert, because we are all ranching in the desert, and we are getting pretty good results in our own ranches.